Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Jayom Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashtottara Shatasya Srimad His Divine Grace Abhay Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Samveta Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Nitai Gaur Premanande Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudiraya Nashtaprayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Hare Krishna. So today morning we'll be reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, second chapter, chapter entitled Divinity and Divine Service, text number 11. Please recite after me. Vadanti tat tattvavidas tattvam yad jnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti shabdate vadante tat tattvavidas tattvam yad jnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti Bhagavaniti shabdate Vadanti tattvavidas Tattvam yajnanam advayam Brahmeti paramatmeti Bhagavaniti shabdate Vadanti tattvavidas Tattvam yajnanam advayam Brahmeti paramatmeti Bhagavaniti shabdate. Please recite.
Vadanti tattvavidas brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti shabdate Vadanti tattvavidas Sattam yasyanam advayam Brahmeti paramatmeti Bhagavaniti sabdate.
Word to word meaning, translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Abhay Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki Vadanti, they say, Tat, that, Tattvavidaha, the learned souls, Tattvam, the absolute truth, Yat, which, Jnanam, knowledge, Advayam, non-dual, Brahma iti, known as Brahman, Paramatma iti, known as Paramatma, Bhagavan iti, known as Bhagavan, Shabdate, it is sounded. Translation: learned transcendentalists who know the absolute truth call this non-dual substance Brahman, Paramatma or Bhagavan. Purport: the absolute truth is both subject and object, and there is no qualitative difference there. Therefore, Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagavan are qualitatively one and the same. The same substance is realized as impersonal Brahman by the students of Upanishads, as localized Paramatma by the Hiranyagarbhas or the yogis, and as Bhagavan by the devotees. In other words, Bhagavan or the personality of Godhead is the last word of the absolute truth. Paramatma is the partial representation of the personality of Godhead, and impersonal Brahman is the glowing effulgence of the personality of Godhead. As the sun rays are to the sun god. Less intelligent students of either of the above schools sometimes argue in favor of their own respective realization. But those who are perfect seers of the absolute truth know well that the above three features of the one absolute truth are different perspective views seen from different angles of vision. As it is explained in the first shloka of the first chapter of Bhagavatam, the Supreme Truth is self-sufficient, cognizant, and free from the illusion of relativity. In the relative world, the knower is different from the known, but in the absolute truth, both the knower and the known are one and the same thing. In the relative world, the knower is the living spirit or superior energy, whereas the known is inert matter or inferior energy. Therefore, there is a duality of inferior and superior energy, whereas in the absolute realm, both the knower and the known are of the same energy. There are three kinds of energies of supreme energetic. There is no difference between the energy and energetic, and there is a difference of quality of energies. The absolute realm and the living entities are of the same superior energy, but the material world is inferior energy. The living being in contact with the inferior energy is illusioned, thinking he belongs to the inferior energy. Therefore, there is a sense of relativity in the material world. In the absolute, there is no such sense of difference between the knower and the known, and therefore everything there is absolute. Om Ajnanatirmirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaiham Dadati Swapadantikam Bandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalitan Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashat Desha Tarine Pancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivashadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So, this is one of the very important shlokas of Srimad Bhagavatam, and Srila Prabhupada has repeatedly quoted this shloka in many other purports and all. And this reference we many times hear in the lectures of many sannyasis and many senior devotees. So on this particular shloka, I was hearing a lecture by Srila Prabhupada, and from that lecture I'll try to share some points. So Srila Prabhupada was mentioning that this particular thing that which is mentioned over here, that vadanti tat tattvavidas tattvam. So Vadanti, the Tattvavadis or the Tattvavidas, one who knows the truth, the knower of the truth, they say, what they say? They say about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or they say about the spiritual truth in three facets, in three spheres. So this is like Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagavan. In these three levels they speak. And strikingly, Srila Prabhupada mentioned that three are only God realization, right? So there is no world between these three realizations. Rather, it's like like Brahman, the Bhagavan realization is like the universal set, and within that set, this Paramatma realization is a subset of that, and Brahman realization a subset of again Paramatma realization. So Srila Prabhupada was mentioning that this is based on the realization of a person. How realized a person is, based on that realization, one can understand the supreme truth in these three features. It's not a matter of our intellectual exercise or speculation that we'll be able to understand the Supreme Truth. Rather, it's a process, and the process is devotional service. So those who are trying to understand the Supreme Truth with their own jnana or with their own mental speculation, they can reach up to Brahman. This is what Prabhupada mentioned. Because in own speculation, sometimes a person is doing, it is like Aroha Pantha. They gradually ascend as per their own qualification or understanding. And what maximum they can reach up to is the level of Brahman. And then we can see the Paramatma Vadis, the yogis, the Hatha yogis, one who is going through yam, niyam, asan, pranayam, dhyan, dharana, pratyahar, samadhi. And in that realized stage of samadhi, they can see the Paramatma within their heart. Just like when we read the story of Narada boy, Narad Muni in his previous life when he was a Dasi Putra. Then he was following the process of yogic Ashtanga Yoga. So in his heart, he got a darshan of the four-handed Vishnu form, the Paramatma. And it was like a flash in a night sky. It was like a thunder strike in a night sky. And whenever there is a thunder strike, the night sky illuminates for a moment and again it goes dark. So Narad Muni was feeling the same way. He was very happy for that fraction of a second when he got the glimpse of Paramatma, Vishnu, within his heart. But at the same time, when the form of Vishnu disappeared from within his heart, he was morose. And then there was this celestial voice which says that unless and until one is spiritually perfect, till that time one cannot have the darshan of the Lord incessantly. So it was mentioned to Narad Muni that you perform devotional service and eventually you will get the eternal darshan and eternal association of Lord. In the same way, we can see the pastime of Dhruv Maharaj, that Narad Muni instructed Dhruv Maharaj in Ashtanga Yoga, but Narad Muni is a very expert guru, because Dhruv Maharaj was very much attached to this getting the kingdom, and he was very fruitive in a way, but he was not speculating. He was searching, he was seeking. And that is the reason Narad Muni gave him externally Ashtanga Yoga, but internally he gave him devotional service. He asked him that you make a form of the Lord, worship the Lord with your heart. And because Dhruv Maharaj was following devotional service in the garb of Ashtanga Yoga, that is the reason he was getting an incessant darshan of Vishnu within his heart, in his samadhi, which Narad Muni was not getting as a Narada boy form. He was doing only Ashtanga Yoga at that time. He was just chanting he was just following the process given by those Bhakti Vedantas. So he got a glimpse of the darshan. But Dhruv Maharaj was getting a constant darshan. And then that form which he was seeing within his heart, that got manifested in front of him. And that is the ultimate level of realization where Dhruv Maharaj with folded hands, he started praying to Lord that please engage me in your services, and I do not want what I desired for. That was completely out of ignorance that I was desiring. So Bhagavan realization, Srila Prabhupada was mentioning that it is only possible by practicing devotional service. If one is not practicing devotional service, till that time one cannot have Bhagavan realization, because devotional service is a means by which one can advance and come up to the perfectional stage of having the constant audience of Krishna and the darshan of Krishna and the eternal service of Krishna. However, devotional service, as Srila Prabhupada mentions in Nectar of Instruction, that it is deceptively simple. It looks very simple. It looks absolutely nothing, so simple. Just you come to the temple, dance in front of Lord, clap your hands, chant some mantras, take prasad. No austerity in that way it is seen. But this process is so powerful because it is a process which is connected to Krishna directly. Just like one can have a very powerful light, but if the light is not connected to the power source, however powerful light that can be, that may be, it won't glow, it won't give out light. But if we have a small bulb and the bulb is connected to the power source, the bulb will start glowing. So in this way, devotional service, though it looks very simple, but it is not simple, it is very intense, because this process is connected to Krishna and it is connected to the teachings of Shastras given by the spiritual masters, the unbroken chain of disciplic succession. In the shloka of 11.54 in Bhagavad Gita, there Srila Prabhupada mentions, actually Krishna mentions in the beginning, that Bhaktya tu ananya sakhya evam vido Arjuna. That, O Arjun, only a devotee can know me completely. You can know me. Krishna was pointing out. And then Prabhupada, as he mentioned many times, that we are in the parampara of Arjun. So similarly, the devotees who are in the parampara of Arjun, they can know Krishna properly. And in that purport, Srila Prabhupada mentions from various scriptures, from various Upanishads even, specifically from Gopal Tapani Upanishad, about the devotional service, about the importance of devotional service onto the lotus feet of Krishna. And there Prabhupada mentions from Shetashvatara Upanishad, Yasya deve para bhaktir, yatha deve tatha guru, tasyaitam hi kathitam arthe, prakashante mahatmana. He says that when one is rendering devotional service with unflinching faith and devotion to Krishna and to his spiritual master, then the spiritual knowledge is revealed in one's heart. Right? It's a matter of revelation. So this is what Sudha Goswami is speaking about, the revelation in the heart, right? Tattvavadis, the one who has realized the truth. And from their heart, the truth is manifested in three levels, that is Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagavan. Coming to the discussion of Tattvavadis, that how important it is to be on that platform of knowing the Tattva. Because Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Janma karma chame divyam evam yo vetti tattvataha tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti suarjuna. And in that lecture, Srila Prabhupada mentions in that particular verse that even though when somebody knows that the janma and karma of Lord is spiritual, it is divyam, tattvata, just he knows this as a matter of information, even though he does not have realization, still he will be free from birth and death if he has got unflinching faith in that piece of information, that janma and karma of Lord is completely spiritual. So Srila Prabhupada is mentioning in the purport, and that too also in the lecture, very nicely. He is saying that Brahman is like the effulgence of sun, and the effulgence of sun can reach anywhere and everywhere, but the effulgence of sun is dependent on the sun globe. If the sun globe is not existing, then the sun rays cannot reach to every corner. Though the sun globe is not visible, sun rays are visible. Sun rays are visible in every nook and corner, but the basis of sun rays is the sun globe. So the basis of impersonal Brahman is Paramatma. Because Paramatma is situated everywhere, in every particle, in every atom. That is the reason, the Brahman is reaching over there. The sunlight is reaching, the effulgence is reaching over there. And one can have a realization of God in any part of this world, or in any situation, in any circumstance, or within every living entity. So this Brahman effulgence is basically spiritual particles, which Prabhupada mentions in one purport in fourth canto somewhere, I'm forgetting. Prabhupada mentioned it is formed with spiritual particles. Spiritual particles form the Brahman. So ultimately, even though the Brahman seem to be like a impersonal thing, but still that impersonal thing is composed of personal spiritual particles, right? And this is the expansion of Paramatma, who is like sun globe. But the Paramatma who seems to be just like standing in the heart and is not doing anything, just acting as Upadrashta Anumanta. But that Paramatma is also active in the feature of Bhagavan. And in the feature of Bhagavan, he is very beautifully acting in the spiritual world. So in the spiritual world, Srila Prabhupada was mentioning that there, that Paramatma who is standing straight, like we can see the form of Vishnu, like Alarnath or Balaji, There we can see the form is straight, holding Shankha, Chakra, Gada and Padma. The Lord is like standing straight. But that form, when he enters in the spiritual world of Golok Vrindavan, that form becomes Tribhanga Murti. It becomes, bent in three different portions, especially in the shoulder region, in the waist, and in the feet. And with that feature, the Lord is playing flute, just like Natavar. So, when the deities are made of Krishna and the hand postures are shown, then when we see the Lord, it may seem that just the Lord is holding a flute like that. But if somebody tries to hold the flute in a way how Krishna holds in that feature, then actually it will be very painful for us. One can just imagine the form of Sri Radha Madhav in Mayapur, or Gopinath in Chopati, or like any form of the Lord, and how he is holding the flute in a posture of a dancer. So that's like very difficult for an ordinary living entity. Even for Brahmaji and Shivji, we can see them. We don't see them in Tribhanga form, right? We see them sitting straight. Brahmaji is sitting and meditating. Shivji is sitting and meditating. But Krishna is always in that Tribhanga form. He is twisted, and that is what is his speciality. And with that, he is playing a flute and is attracting the hearts of his unlimited devotees in spiritual world. Karshan Benu Swanair Gopi Gopinatha Striye Sunaha. So with this flute, he is attracting the heart. Who can do this? Many people can play many musical instruments, but they can get some clap for some time. But unlimitedly attracting the heart is only a feature of Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? So real yoga, Prabhupada was mentioning, real yoga is to see this form of the Lord. And then Prabhupada was mentioning a very important verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, that is in 12th canto, 13th chapter, right? You may recite after me. It is the first verse of 12th canto, 13th chapter. Sutta Uvacha Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Marutas Tunvanti Devya Istavai Vedai Sangha Pada Kramopanishadair Gayanti Yam Samagaha Dhyanavastita Tadagate Namanasa Pashyanti Yam Yogina Yasyantam Navidu Sura Suragana Devaya Tasmai Namaha. So, this is also a shloka by Sutta Goswami, and Sutta Goswami, there he spoke in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam that the actual truth, Vadantita Tattvavidas Tattvam, actual truth has three stages: Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. And in the conclusion of Srimad Bhagavatam, he is mentioning who is the conclusion, even though there are three, but who is to be concluded upon, right? So Sutta Goswami is saying, onto that personality whom Brahma, Varuna, Indra, Rudra and the Marutas praise by chanting transcendental hymns and reciting the Vedas with all their corollaries, Padakramas and Upanishads, to whom the chanters of the Samaveda always sing. So Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is so special, Bhagavan, that he is eternally praised, eternally he is glorified, using the verses from the Vedas, using the verses from the Upanishad, using the verses from the corollaries like Padakramas and the other Samhitas and all. But still, if one tries to read those shlokas and understand who is Supreme Personality of Godhead, one will not understand. So that is the speciality of supreme truth. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur mentions that Upanishads and all these Vedic scriptures, they are a bit complicated and riddle for a materialistic person. Why it's a riddle? Because all these things are glorification to Supreme Personality of Godhead. But when somebody reads these shlokas, they cannot understand who is Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, he likes these scriptures. He likes this twisted glorification. He likes this, turned around pinpointedness towards him without mentioning his name. So these Upanishads are like a child's play for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is playing with the verses, that when these verses are quoted, it is indicating towards him, but it is not directly indicated. So it's a joyous thing for Supreme Personality of Godhead. But one who will not know this joy, one who will not know this rasa, he will conclude something else out of these scriptures, right? So that's how the Supreme Personality of Godhead is so special. And then it is mentioned, Dhyanavasthita tatgatena manasa pashyanti yam yogino. There are unlimited number of yogis. We may not see many yogis in this planet, but we may see many pseudo yogis. But there are many real yogis in entire material universe, in every Brahmandas. And they are eternally sitting in meditation and they are fixing their mind in trance, and in their heart they are seeing the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and they are absorbed in Him. Right? Atma Ramascha Munayam. They are Atma Ram. They are just happy seeing the Lord within their heart. That's how Lord is giving them internal joy. Right? And still they are looking outside whenever there is a glorification of Lord is happening. So that Lord who is sitting in their heart as Paramatma, that Lord who is eternally existing everywhere as Brahman, when that Lord directly does some mischief like steals butter in Golok Vrindavan, or lifts Govardhan, or speaks Bhagavad Gita. So these yogis and these jnanis who are absorbed in Brahman and Paramatma, they come running to Supreme Personality of Godhead to understand what he is saying. So he is not known by anyone. Sura Sura Ganai, Na Vidu Sura Sura Ganai. The Sura Sur, the demigods, the demons cannot know him. So Sutta Goswami is saying, I am offering pranam to that personality of Godhead, obeisances to that personality of Godhead. And in the next shloka, Sutta Goswami is giving a very funny, speciality of the Lord, that how mystically Lord acts. In the next shloka to this. So Sutta Goswami is saying, Prishthe Brahmayad Amanda Mandara Giri Gravagra Kandu Yanam Nidra Lokamatha Kriter Bhagavata Swashanila Pantu Vaha Yat Samskara Kalanuvartana Vasad Vela Nibhenam Bhasam Yat Samskara Kalanuvartana Vasad Vela Nibhenam Bhasam Yatayatam atandritam jalanidher Nantyapi veshram yati Yatayatam atandritam jalanidher Nantyapi veshram yati. So Sutta Goswami is saying, you are saying that, like he is kind of mentioning in this mode, that you are saying that truth has three features, Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagavan. And you are saying that these three features are same. No, these three features are not same. Because in Brahman, he is all pervading, he is pervading everywhere, but he cannot create some fun. As a Paramatma, he is standing in your heart, he is reciting in your heart, but he cannot feel some pleasure. But in the feature of Bhagavan, just see what he is doing. He is coming as a big tortoise, and on the back of this tortoise, the Mandara mountain is whirling, right? It is getting twirled. by the pull of the rope by the demons and demigods. And it is a very tense situation. A lot of tension is there. From one side, Vasuki is releasing poison, like demigods, they are like fearful whether Amrita will come. The demons, their face is becoming black. The mountain is like not in a balance, it is like in an imbalanced situation. But here, when the mountain is twirling on the back of the Lord, there is some scratching sensation, and the Lord is feeling so much of pleasure that he is falling asleep, right? And in the sleep, the Lord is, peacefully breathing, exhaling and inhaling, and thereby some waves are created. And those peaceful exhale and inhale was so beautiful that till now all the oceans are imitating that, and that is the reason there is waves in that. So the feature of Bhagavan is actually the most beautiful feature, right? And this is what Sukadeva Goswami is pointing towards the end. And then Srila Prabhupada was mentioning the verse from Brahma Samhita, Yasya Prabha Prabhavato Jagadanda Koti Kotishu Ashesha Vasudha Divibhuti Bhinnam Tad Brahma Nishkalam Ananta Ashesha Bhutam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. So Prabhupada was mentioning that the basis of Brahman is Supreme Personality of God. Yasya Prabha, it is a Prabha, it is a light coming out from him. And Kotishu Ashesha Vasudha, it is a source of manifestation of many universes, and all these universes are actually resting on this impersonal Brahman effulgence of Lord. And that is how we read in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, Krishna is mentioning Gama Vishyacha Bhutani Dharayam Aham Ojasa. That we see all these planets, they are situated on their orbits by the Brahman effulgence, by the strength of Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? And that's how Srila Prabhupada was mentioning. So how to know the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the Pratishtha of Veda, who is the Pratishtha of Brahman and Paramatma? Prabhupada was saying that the first class yogi is the one who is constantly thinking of Supreme Personality of Godhead, as mentioned in Bhagavad Gita 6.47, Yoginam api sarvesham. And then Prabhupada was mentioned when somebody is chanting offenselessly, they are doing offenseless chanting, and in that mood they are rendering service, Sevan Mukhehi Jivhado, they start the service with the tongue, then Krishna is revealed to them. With the name of Krishna, the more and more revelation comes that this name and the form of Krishna is not different. So Srila Prabhupada was mentioning in one place that if somebody tells you that, have you seen God? You should tell him, I have heard God. Because name and form is identical. So even though we are not able to see God at this moment, we are able to hear God, and eventually the time will come when this realization of pure hearing will culminate into pure vision, and we will be able to see God. And then Prabhupada was mentioning that which was happening, which would have happened by unlimited amount of jnana cultivation. Mentioning the shlok, Srila Prabhupada was telling Bahunam Janmanam Ante, that can only happen by chanting in this lifetime. And then Prabhupada was mentioning this is the gift of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was Supreme Personality of Godhead, and at the same time he is Acharya. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not concoct anything, he spoke from scripture. Prabhupada was mentioning the scripture tells that process of God realization is easiest in Kali Yuga because one can hear the name of, just by chanting the name of God, one can hear, one can understand Krishna, right? And then Prabhupada mentioned this is what we have mentioned in our scriptures, Bhagavad Gita and all. And that's why Prabhupada was quoting, actually this lecture which Prabhupada gave was in 1972 in the month of October, 22nd October, something like that. Prabhupada was mentioning that this is what we have mentioned in our Bhagavad Gita, and when we mention pure things, then people will take pure things. They will not reject pure things. And Prabhupada was quoting from this person from Macmillan who said that this edition of Bhagavad Gita given by ISKCON, this is going like this is every time this is increasing, this is constantly increasing. But the other version of Bhagavad Gita which is not speaking the actual truth, those are basically becoming obsolete. Their printing is going down. Prabhupada mentioned that it was 1972 October. Prabhupada mentioned in August we have already printed 50,000 copies from Macmillan, and those are over. Now we are going for the second printing of Bhagavad Gita, second edition printing. So in 3 months 50,000 copies were distributed, was sold out, right? So that's how Prabhupada was saying that this is the glory of pure teachings of Bhagavad Gita, pure tattva. Vadanti tat tattva vidas tattvam. So in Bhagavad Gita, in multiple places, Krishna mentioned the quality of Brahman, Krishna has mentioned the quality of Paramatma, and Krishna has also mentioned the quality of Bhagavan realization. So we'll little bit see that what Krishna has mentioned. So in 14th chapter 27 verse, Krishna has mentioned this verse, Brahmano hi pratishtaham, right? And there Prabhupada wrote in the purport that this effulgence is a ray of Krishna. And in 8.3 Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is saying Aksharam Brahma Paramam, that in this world there are two kind of personalities. There is Akshara and there is Shara. Shara means that which gets destroyed, and that is under the internal potency of Lord. And in this purport of 2nd chapter 11 verse, what we are reading, in this purport basically Prabhupada is mentioning that we are a combination of two energies. Our body is inferior energy and our soul is superior energy. But in spiritual world, it is only superior energy, right? It is only superior energy. So Aksharam Brahma Paramam. So Krishna is saying that this Brahman is basically Akshar. But then somebody might understand that okay, Krishna is also Akshar. But Krishna is not Akshar. Krishna is Purushottam. And this is mentioned in the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, which says Yasmat Sharam Atito Aham Aksharat Apichottama Ato Asmi Loke Vedecha Pratitaha Purushottama. Krishna is saying that there are two personalities, Shara and Akshara. Shara is of material world, Akshara is of spiritual world, but I am not even Akshara, I am beyond Akshara, and that is why the Vedas call me Purushottam. The Aksharas are also emanated from me. The Aksharas also has their basis upon me only. And then Krishna is saying that this Brahman effulgence is basically avyakta. It does not have any form. But one who gets Brahman realization, one who understands that this Supreme Personality of Godhead is all pervading, three things immediately happen in that person. And this is what is mentioned in 18.54 of Bhagavad Gita. Krishna mentions they become joyful, prasannatma, and free from lamentation and desire, and they start treating everyone on equal spiritual platform. Bodily platforms are different, but on a spiritual platform, they start treating everyone equally. Now for the Paramatma understanding, in 18.61, Krishna is giving this verse, Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam Riddeshe Arjuna Tishtati. So Brahman is spread everywhere, Brahman is manifested everywhere, but Paramatma is localized. Paramatma is within our heart, right? He is situated within our heart. And he is controlling every living entity internally. He is Antaryami. Yami means one who can travel, and Antar means one who can travel inside our heart, right? And then in 13.23 of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is mentioning Upadrashta, Anumanta, Bharta, Bhokta. These are the qualities, 4 qualities of Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is Upadrashta, this is of Paramatma, Paramatma's quality. He is Upadrashta, that means he is a witness, always he is a witness. I was hearing one lecture with Radha Govind Maharaj. Radha Govind Maharaj was mentioning that Krishna, even though he is Supreme Personality of Godhead, he has all the autocracy with him, but still he is very merciful. Even though he is sitting in everyone's heart and he is the supreme witness, but he has kept many other witnesses also, and he does not want to bring himself in the forefront, and he wants to work with his trusted agents, right? He does not act like all in all. He does not act like a monarch, though he can always do that, but he does not do so. So he is witness, the supreme witness, and other witness may make mistakes, but Krishna will never make a mistake. right? And next is Anumanta. He's a sanctioner, he sanctions. And he is Bharta. He is a maintainer, and he is Bhokta. He is the enjoyer, right? And in 13.3, he is mentioning, Krishna is mentioning, the Paramatma is Kshetragyam Chapi Mam Vidhi Sarva Kshetreshu Bharata. So Krishna is mentioning that our bodies are like Kshetra, and our soul is like the owner of this Kshetra. Just like everyone has got a piece of land, and they are the owner of this piece of land. But the government of the country, they are the owner of all the lands, right? So in that same way, we are the Kshetragna of this particular body, but Paramatma is Kshetragna of Sarva Kshetreshu Bharata. He is the Kshetragna, he is the owner of all the living entities. And then 13.24, Krishna is mentioning Dhyanatman, Dhyana Nenatmani Pashyanti. In meditation, through Dhyana Yoga, through Hatha Yoga, one can come to the conclusion of seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead within his heart. And regarding Bhagavan, Krishna has mentioned in Bhagavad Gita 10.8, Aham Sarvasya Prabhavo. He says, Krishna is saying that I am the source of everyone, right? Aham Sarvasya Prabhavo, Matta Sarvam Pravartate. He is mentioning his position in a superlative degree, right? He's doing it in a superlative degree. And then in 9.11 he is mentioning Avajananti Mam Mura. The fools will not understand me, especially the personal form of the Lord, right? They will not understand that the personal form of Lord is divine, eternal and transcendental. Just like Duryodhan could never understand that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Dhritarashtra could understand, but still he could not act on that platform. This is the problem. Like when Krishna and Balaram came to Mathura, immediately sent Akrura in Hastinapur to oversee the situation over there. And Akrura spent 6 months in Hastinapur, and he spoke with everyone. And he also spoke with Kunti Maharani, and he could understand very well that this place of Hastinapur is extremely political, has become a political place where conspiracy is going on against the Pandavas. So at the end, before leaving, Akrura came to Dhritarashtra and told him, you see, you are doing a very sinful activity by depriving your nephews. They are like your son, and you should not commit so much of sinful activities towards them. And Krishna is taking care of everything. I have been sent by Krishna, and if you act unlawfully, then Krishna will act in a very heavy manner. And then Dhritarashtra replied to him that yes, I do understand that Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead, but what to do? I am bound by providence, I am bound by Putra Sneha, I am bound by Maya, and this Maya is an expansion of Krishna only, right? So the helplessness of a materialistic man is expressed herein, that when they are not directly surrendering onto Supreme Personality of Godhead, then even though they understand that their situation is very precarious, still they cannot come out from that situation. Personally, I have some understanding of this. There was a time when I used to only read Prabhupada books, and I thought I will not go to devotees, because if I go to devotees, they might brainwash me. So it was span of 1-2 years, I was just reading Prabhupada books. And I was reading many things, I was appreciating many things, but I was not able to follow the things which was spoken over there. But then eventually when I came in contact with devotees, I found that mystically I was able to follow those things which I was struggling to follow, and things were smooth. So in the association of devotee, when somebody surrenders onto Supreme Personality of Godhead, then one can understand the position of the Lord. And Bhaktyamam Abhijanati, this is one of the very special shlokas of Bhagavad Gita 18.55, that the feature of Bhagavan is only known by devotee. And 18.65 Krishna mentions Man Mana Bhava Mad Bhakto, and that's how the devotees are mad in the love of Godhead, right? They have got loving relationship, and in an extreme perfected situation, the love that a devotee shares, the devotee bestows on Supreme Personality of Godhead, Even Supreme Personality of Godhead cannot reciprocate with the devotees in that manner. So the obligation, the obligated situation is a speciality of Bhagavan feature. Paramatma or Brahman never feels obliged to its practitioners, right? Paramatma never feels obligated towards the practitioner of Hatha Yogis, or Brahman effulgence never feel obligated to the practitioners of Brahmavadis, practitioners of Brahmavad. But Bhagavan feels obliged, like Krishna told to the gopis, "Na parayam aham, I cannot repay you. Just the way you have felt happiness by loving me, you be happy with that happiness only. Nothing more that I can give you." Right? So this obligation makes Bhagavan realization to be more sweet. However, this Tattvavadi stage has got a beginning of Bhagavan realization. But by the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, with his discussion with the Tattvavadi Vaishnavas, we can see that Mahaprabhu got them on the path of devotional service. Because when in God realization or in Bhagavan realization also, there is a preliminary stage, and Tattvavadis were on the preliminary stage where they were aspiring from the four positive liberation, that is Sarupya, Samipya, Sarshti and Samipya. Sarupya, Samipya, Sarshti, Salokya. They are aspiring for this four positive liberation. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, no, devotional service has to be completely unmotivated, right? Ahituki apratihata. So then he inspired them on the level that even though the Lord Diyamanam Nagrinanti Binamad Sevanam Jana, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu inspired them on the platform that even though the Lord is keen to give them liberation, the pure devotees do not aspire for that. And hearing this, the Tattvavadis became great devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Madhvacharya's follower. Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur mentioned this. The Tattvavadis mentioned in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita are the followers of Madhvacharyas in Udupi Mutt. And Sri Radhanath Maharaj, he mentions this in Journey Home. He came across many practitioners, spiritualists, and he was appreciative about all of them. However, you would see that everybody is trying to prove that their path is best. So at last when he came to Vrindavan, and Prabhupada came in Vrindavan, and on one fine morning when he came to hear from Srila Prabhupada, when somebody asked a question to Srila Prabhupada that who is best, then Prabhupada mentioned this shloka, Vadantita Tattvavidas Tattvam, that this three layer of God realization. And when Maharaj heard this, it was so reconciling and it was so pleasing to his heart that he immediately thought that here I am going to commit myself. As in that lecture also which I was hearing, Prabhupada was mentioning the same point, that the three of them are spiritual realization, however with different levels. And in the last days of Srila Prabhupada, when he was staying in Rishikesh, then every day in Rishikesh he would give lectures. And in Rishikesh, many of the sadhus, they would come, because Rishikesh is a place of many yogis, sadhus and also many sadhus would come. So one day one sadhu came who was Brahmavadi. And at that time, Prabhupada was like in a very poor health. So Prabhupada would give class and he would not do question answers and he would just retire in his room. And the devotees would do question answers. So one person was Brahmavadi, kind of. Actually, nowadays there Brahmavadis do not exist. Mostly all are Mayavadis only. So he was kind of Mayavadi only. And this person was arguing, no, ultimately God is formless. Ultimately God is formless. Like few days back, I saw one very exalted, so-called exalted spiritualist who many people nowadays they follow madly. And considering him a great Vaishnava, he is saying that ultimately it is Advaita. Ultimately it is formless. He is saying like this. So people are confused endlessly. So this person was very confused and he was like, he said, I have question. So His Holiness Bhakticharu Swami Maharaj was talking to him. And in course of discussion, Guru Maharaj became angry with this person because he was not listening to. So Guru Maharaj, he started, the discussion started on a softer note but ended in a heavy note. It was like, back and forth, argument was going on. So Guru Maharaj was shouting at the peak of his voice. And And this yogi was also shouting, this Mayavadi person, he was also shouting. And then Guru Maharaj quoted, Vadanti tattva vidas tattvam yaj jnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagvaniti shabdate. That Bhagavan, Brahma stage is just on the level of, Sat. Because Supreme Personality of Godhead is Sat, Chit, Ananda. So Brahman is just Sat. Paramatma is Chit. And Bhagavan is Ananda. So Paramatma is Chit and Sat. And Bhagavan is Sat, Chit, Ananda 3. So Brahman is lesser. So how can you tell Brahman is above Bhagavan? Brahman will pratishtha. He was like shouting like this. And then after some time the yogi was like, this Mayavadi, he was like, he could understand that his logics were not working. So he left hastily. And then Guru Maharaj discovered that he was shouting and doing all these things in front of Prabhupada's room only. It was in front of Prabhupada's door. And Guru Maharaj was very frightened that he was shouting in front of Prabhupada's door. So then Guru Maharaj went inside Prabhupada's room and he sought forgiveness that, sorry Prabhupada, I was shouting at the peak of my voice. I could not understand that I am standing in front of your room only. So then Prabhupada said, what was he telling? Because you were shouting so much, I was unable to hear him. So Guru Maharaj said that he was saying this, that Brahman is, from Brahman only Krishna has come, from Brahman only Paramatma has come, Brahman is supreme. And then Prabhupada said, so you were shouting, but what were you telling? I could only hear you were yelling. I was not able to hear your, talks. Then Guru Maharaj said, I said this thing. So Prabhupada said, very nice. You said very nice thing. This is how this Mayavadis should be treated. They are fools. And they are like animals. They should be chastised. Just like animals has to be chastised, in that way they should also be chastised. So that's how this slok is very important. However, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Srila Prabhupada taught us going beyond this shloka and come to the full realization of Bhagavan, as Prabhupada has mentioned in the purport, that Bhagavan realization is the ultimate situation of transcendence. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki, Shamaveta Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki, Janitai Gaur Premanande. Hare Krishna.